Alright people, Mike Saladin here again. Welcome back to another Starfield video. Today I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Crimson Fleet questline. I'm going to be showing footage from the final part of the quest, so like full spoilers. Don't watch this if you haven't beaten the Crimson Fleet questline just yet. But yeah, I'm going to spoil everything and sort of go through why I liked this questline and how it really got me into the game in a big way when I was starting to feel a little bit burnt out with Starfield, and like I really wasn't invested in any of the storylines or anything. After a certain amount of time, the Crimson Fleet suddenly showed up as a questline and it really fixed a lot of issues I was having with the game. It gave me some characters that I was actually invested in and took me to some really interesting places, had some really great set pieces, and I actually think that now I've finished it, it might be my favourite Bethesda questline since the Dark Brotherhood in Oblivion, which was a long time ago now, in like 2006 or whatever. So it's been a long time since I was this impressed by a Bethesda questline, and I think really what it came down to was the interesting locations for the missions that had various different ways that you could accomplish the tasks that you were given, and it was the first time in a long time in a Bethesda game where I felt like some actual role playing was happening. And I know this mission isn't a very good representation of it because I'm just going in and like machine gunning everybody. But before this final mission, there were a lot of different types of mission that involved sort of stealing stuff or hacking into things, persuading people without violence, using your different traits and abilities and skills, and actually accomplishing things without just turning up, shoot everyone, and not just repeat that for every mission. They actually put a lot of thought into this one, had some really good storytelling, and I was just really impressed with the Crimson Fleet overall. I think the highlight for me was probably when you actually went to get the legacy. Crixon's legacy, I think Cryax's legacy. I've forgotten the guy's name now, but it was the ship with all the money on it from the heist that you had to go retrieve, and the storytelling that took place on that ship was really some of the strongest stuff Bethesda has done in a long time. Finding the Legacy's old crew and discovering what had happened to them and how they had been trapped in this gas giant planet and no one came to save them and there was no way out for them, and hearing the audio logs of their final days on the ship and how they slowly like starved to death and went crazy. Some of them put themselves out of their misery, so to speak. And it was really effective, really good environmental storytelling. You found all the crew's bodies where they were positioned. You got like a real sense of who these people were. Where in a lot of Bethesda dungeons over the last 10 years, you really go in there, you find some notes. Some of them have good writing, but a lot of the time you didn't care about anything that you were doing in a lot of those Fallout 4 quests, and you didn't really get any sort of emotional resonance with anything you were doing. But when you went to the Legacy ship and you found those crew members, and there was some really good voice acting on the audio logs of them like just basically slowly dying and starving to death, and how they were dealing with that, and they were just doing mundane things like playing cards until they could no longer stand it anymore and just would wander off to a corner of the ship just to wait to die basically. And you find the last person who was alive, still sitting at the table with the cards in front of them. And it was just really haunting and effective. And I really couldn't believe that I was actually emotionally affected by some writing in a Bethesda game for the first time in like a decade. And it was happening all in this Crimson Fleet questline. So that was the highlight, really, getting to the legacy ship and discovering everything that had gone on that ship, and then making your epic escape when the ship starts to blow up. I'm not going to show any footage of that stuff because mainly I just recorded over this final mission because it was just the footage that I had, really, because the quest lines are really long, and to record it all on Xbox it would have taken up so much space on my hard drive, like I don't know, 5 hours of footage or something. So really we've got the last 20 minutes of this quest line where you finally, you know, betray the Crimson Fleet. It's what I chose to do, and I felt really terrible about it because really the Crimson Fleet, the characters you meet here, they were a lot more interesting and full of life than, you know, the military guys over at UNC, the Vanguard guys, whatever their name is, USEC. The only reason I decided to betray the pirates is because, quite hilariously, Sarah Morgan is now my wife in this game, and she was tagging along throughout this entire undercover operation, and she was disapproving of any time that you tried to do any real piracy. She was like, "This is a disgrace, how could you do this?" And then I was starting to feel pretty bad, and I was like, if this keeps up, she's gonna ask for a divorce or break up or something. And I'm not really that far into the main story, so it could have led to some awkwardness when I go back to the main quest and Sarah Morgan's there and she's my ex-wife now because my life of piracy ruined our marriage. So that's why I decided in the end, for the sake of keeping Sarah Morgan happy, that I would just turn on these guys and tragically take them all down and destroy their base. And I really did feel bad about it, and I do choose some dialogue options when I'm talking to the space cops. Commander Akande, I think his name is. He's the South African commander. He's a really good voice actor, that guy. I really like the cadence of his voice, and they allowed him to like really keep his strong I think it's South African, his really strong South African accent. He's a pretty cool guy, and I can see people would decide to side with him just because he was pretty cool, but I didn't really get to know anyone else on that side of this conflict, and most of my time was spent on the Crimson Fleet base, the Key, and getting to know Delgado and all these guys. So I did bond to them a lot more, so it actually was pretty hard to make this decision. But again, because my wife basically was pressuring me into it, I betrayed all my friends, and now I have to execute them all. Basically here, this is Delgado. He calls you out on all your betrayals. Really made me feel bad. Again, had some really good writing here. I'm not going to show the entire conversation, I don't think, because it goes on for quite a while. But eventually, I think I go into a persuade conversation, and I managed to talk him down into letting me get in there and sort of, you know, allow him to surrender peacefully, and suggest that, you know, he give himself up and that he can go to jail or whatever. And yeah, I really wanted to keep him alive because I actually didn't want to fight him. But I decided that I wasn't gonna save scum this conversation. Whatever way it went, and so my first attempt there pretty badly failed, and now I've only got 2 turns left. I don't have the highest persuasion yet, so I had to be pretty careful here. But I thought I needed to risk it and go for another +5 because it takes quite a lot to convince him. So I've still got 1 turn left. and I was really lucky with that second attempt there. And I just have to go for this +3, I think, to convince him. And if it failed, I was just gonna have to execute him. Oh, actually, no, I went for the +1, and then that still leaves you with one chance left. So yeah, and I think I just did this +2. Yeah, there we go, and that made him stand down. So yeah, in the end, I sided against the pirates, and I took down the Crimson Fleet. There was a really great space battle before this, before you got on the space station, the key, and it was really epic. There was like, I don't know how many ships were in the air at once. It felt like there was 15 or 20, and you were just zooming around in this really epic dogfight. And it really felt like on a scale that Bethesda haven't been able to hit with their big battles before. Usually in like Skyrim, your big epic showdown battle would be you and 5 other guys from Whiterun charging towards like 5 or 6 guys from the Empire or whatever, and the battles were quite small feeling. But here they managed in Starfield to get the scale of battles like that really ramped up quite a lot, and I was very impressed with that battle. And overall, I was just blown away by the writing of this quest and how attached to this Crimson Fleet crew I became. And it's actually making me want to get to New Game Plus quite a bit quicker, so that this time I can maybe romance someone else who isn't Sarah, who isn't going to be mad every time I do some piracy. And I might actually side with the pirates the next time and see how it plays out differently. And usually in Bethesda Questlines before, previously, with the choices you're given, there's usually only one way that you want to finish them that gives you the most benefit. But here it felt like a really, it felt like there was a reason to go both ways. And my companions' beliefs and their thoughts about what I was doing actually factored into it. And I liked the way that Sarah could just tag along on this mission throughout the entire like undercover operation. She was just tagged along, and she was allowed to say things during various conversations, and nobody really questioned why she was there, which was kind of weird. It would have been funny if there was some dialogue about you, like the game somehow knew that you were married, and the characters were aware of that, and maybe if they brought up some dialogue about you bringing your wife everywhere, that would have been funny. But yeah, eventually you take out everybody on there on the key, you go back to your own ship, and then you head over to the Vanguard, which is the Space Cops main ship. And we're going over there to get our reward on our medals and our money and whatever. And you walk in, and this is my crew who are all standing in my way at the moment. A bunch of random people, to be honest. I don't really know any of them apart from Sarah Morgan. And Andresia, I think her name is. She's a main character too. I think the rest are just random people I met in bars who I decided to hire. And of course they came along on all these pirate missions. They didn't really seem to have a problem with it, so maybe next time I'll make one of them my main companions. So we take a short trip over here to the Vanguard. This is just the Crimson Fleet's main base, the key. Of course, everyone showed up here to attack it, so we don't have to travel that far to get to the Vanguard ship. I think another highlight for the Crimson Fleet questline for me was also when you had to go to Neon and do sort of a heist mission on Neon and break into this power plant and steal some stuff on there. You could do the whole thing completely stealth, going through vents, sneaking around, climbing up through the roof space, finding people to pickpocket to get their like security pass off them so you could open doors easy. And that was really cool that you were allowed to do that. And I think there was various outcomes that you can have to that mission too. Characters you could decide to keep alive or execute, and it would change the outcome. and you're also supposed to be gathering evidence the whole time to pass to your superiors over here, and I think that made the final space battle easier, because the more evidence you passed back, the more the people above Commander Candy trust him, and they agree to commit more resources to this battle with the Crimson Fleet. So there was a reason to go out of your way to search around and collect extra evidence and stuff like that. Lieutenant Toft, is that her name? She was the one here that you had to hand the evidence to. Really, these were the only two characters on the Vanguard ship here that I ever spoke to, really. So I didn't really get that bonded to anyone on this side of this quest line, and that's why it was kind of making me really want to lean towards siding with the Crimson Fleet. But again, Sarah was really making sure that I wasn't going to do that, because I think her disapproval would go so far down that she would just refuse to like be on my crew anymore or something, maybe. I don't know if that can happen, but it felt like it could. So it was pretty funny that I had such a struggle to decide what to do, and that my in-game wife was the one pushing me to do the right thing. And after this, you can have a conversation with her on your ship. And basically, you can just speak about why you decided to side with the Vanguard, and you can tell Sarah that, yeah, it was because of you that I decided to do the right thing, and then she's all lovey-dovey and happy about that. So yeah, it's cool that they had dialogue for that, and whoever your main companion is that you brought with you in all these missions, maybe they also will have that conversation with you. I don't think it's unique to Sarah Morgan that she's the one that gets that dialogue. Maybe if you had Andresia or someone, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. But yeah, again, Sarah was here during this final mission, so she's got more dialogue here. This started in Fallout 4, of course, where your companions sort of chipped in more, but they went a lot further with it in Starfield, and it was kind of funny having Sarah dragged along through this undercover operation, doing all these evil schemes and criminal plans and stuff. Another great mission was the one where you went to that ship. I can't remember what it was called. It was the Serenity or the Siren or something like that. There was basically this posh party happening, and you had to sneak around there and steal some stuff, gather some information, and it was just a lot of talking to people and sort of pickpocketing people to get keys to break into rooms and steal items. And it was just really in depth and had a lot more to it than your average Bethesda Questline. From the past 10 years anywhere, where it was mainly go to a place, shoot everyone, leave. So yeah, Crimson Fleet, highly recommend it. Probably the best thing in the game. I haven't done everything in the game, but yeah, this was great. So thanks for watching, people, and I'll see you again next time with another Starfield video.
My best wishes travel with you.